Interest rates are up, but there are some amazing options to bring down those rates. Have you heard of a rate buy-down? I'm Misty Metchke, realtor with Hunsaker & Associates.
Hi, I'm Gary Presnall with Northwest Bank out of Ankeny, Iowa.
So Gary, you work with a lot of buyers and sellers today, and obviously, as you know, the interest rates have gone up quite a bit. And I've heard a lot about rate buy-downs. Can you explain a little bit of that to us?
Yeah, you bet. I think one thing that, one of the rate buy-down options that has become more popular is the temporary rate buy-down. It's called a 2-1 buy-down. I don't know if there's a whole lot of information out there for borrowers, but it's where the borrower can actually temporarily buy down the interest rate 2% under the current market. So for instance, if today's market is 6.75%, the first year interest rate for that borrower is at 4.75%.
Wow, that's a huge savings.
Yeah, that's a huge savings. And then, I mean, even just on a $200,000 loan amount, that's over $200 savings for the borrower that first month, and then you multiply that out times 12, and then the second year, interest rate is 5.75%, and then that's another $1,600 savings per year. And so just great savings for the borrower with really no risk to the borrower whatsoever.
Okay. And then tell us, there's another option out there that's called a permanent rate buy down.
Right.
And I think it's called points.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Points. It's probably not as popular maybe as the temporary buy down is, but it's really taking today's interest rate and being able to permanently buy down the interest rate, and it's generally 1% or 1 point times your loan amount. So in this example, on a $200,000 mortgage, it's $2,000, and it generally buys down the interest rate 1/4%.
Okay.
So if today's market was 6.75%, you could buy down the interest rate to 6.5%, and just the savings on that is around $33 a month. The downside of that permanent buy down, if you're going to stay in the house for a period of time, you got to make sure that what it costs you and what you're saving per month is going to really benefit you if you're going to stay there less than 5 years.
So as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, we really have two options. We've got the short-term buy down. We've got the long-term buy down.
Correct.
The short-term buy down, the seller pays upfront, and it reduces our mortgage interest rate by 2% the first year.
Correct.
So we go from 6.75 to 4.75, and it'd save us, quite a bit of money that first year. Then the second year, we're still getting a reduced rate. It's down 1%, and then by year 3, it goes back to our normal permanent rate, and that's from our years 3 through 30.
Correct.
So our benefit is that we have this pretty dramatic savings up front in the first 2 years. And if the buyer was ever to sell the house before those 2 years are over, they would actually be able to recapture that savings and actually reduce the total mortgage amount. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So if they decided to refinance or sell their house within the first 2 years, and there's $1,500 left of that buy down, that $1,500 goes toward the mortgage balance or the principal balance. So there's no really money lost for the borrower.
Which is great, because if interest rates do drop, as we all hope and think they might, it is really not harmful. They can just apply that and actually use that money towards their refinance later on.
Because it really never costs the borrower any money. It's costing the seller, or if they're building a house, it's going to cost the builder. So there really isn't any risk to the borrower.
Okay. And then if we go to a permanent buy down, what we're doing is the buyer is paying for those funds up front. And what they're doing is it's lowering the rate, but it's a much lower. Instead of 2% or 1%, it's a quarter of a percent. But that rate buy down lasts year 1, 2, 3, all the way through 30 years. And so there's probably a break-even point, at which point in time it's like, yeah, this makes sense to do it, or maybe not.
Right.
And that's where we're kind of struggling with these interest rates, that maybe it might change, and maybe that long-term buy down isn't as good of a financial investment.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's not near as dramatic of a savings. And you got to break down the numbers and see, okay, if it's costing me $2,000 to save $33, okay, so how long does that take me to recapture that $2,000 that I spent? And in this case, it takes 5 years. Well, you're going to have to stay in that house 5 years or more for that even to make financial sense for yourself.
Okay.
So, and generally most buyers don't stay in their house 5 years, and even if they did, hopefully, as you said, the market, the rates start to come down and you refinance, and if you refinance, then that's money gone that you spent for buying those points. If you're confident with the rates coming down here in the next year or so, you wouldn't want to pay points in this situation.
And now a question, because I do know that we have some realtors out there that actually watch this video, kind of jumping into the weeds a little bit. How would we actually do that? Just something we do on an addendum, and you negotiate a percentage, or, well, probably not a percentage, just an amount, and then it's put into like an escrow account, or how does that actually work?
Yeah, so how that works, it's not your normal way that you would write up a purchase agreement, but I wouldn't be scared to do it because it's pretty easy verbiage. Yeah, that money would go into, it goes into kind of an escrow account, so that gets paid out on a yearly basis. So you want to make sure that that verbiage is correct. And I mean, the realtors can call me and ask me how to do that. That amount's always going to change depending on the loan amount, and it's also going to depend on the interest rate. So we really can't determine that exact amount until we actually lock in the interest rate for the borrower. So, and that we can always manipulate that and change that, but that's generally how it works. So after each year, there's a certain amount of that money that's set aside that goes to fund that buy down for that year.
Well, that was really helpful, Gary. I know it's answered a lot of my questions, hopefully the viewer questions as well. Gary, how do they get a hold of you?
Yep, thank you. The best way to get a hold of me is just calling my cell phone number. That's on all the time, 515-975-6767. Or my email is gpresnall@nw.bank.
Okay, Presnall, 1L, 2?
2 L's.
2 L's,
Yeah.
Okay. As always, this is Misty Mechke, realtor with Hunskers, trying to bring you a little bit about the community and what's happening in the world of real estate. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.